The new snooker season is now up and running, and even though the Championship League isn't typically the tournament many snooker fans actually tune into, it does offer an early chance for players to pick up some ranking points early in the season, especially players further down the rankings, as typically the top boys don't really bother entering as they have the luxury of enjoying more of a summer break before targeting the bigger events that get started next month. And it was Stephen Maguire this year who was the last man standing to claim his 7th career ranking title and his first in over 5 years. Now, it is nowhere near as prestigious as his other 6, but it may just inspire some confidence into the Scot going into the rest of the season, as he had been slowly drifting down the rankings for a few years now. And this result does come off the back of making it to the Welsh Open final earlier this year as well, and as seems to be the case for a lot of players around Stephen's age, he is proving that he still has the class to stick around, even if the consistency isn't necessarily there anymore. Joe O'Connor was the beaten finalist, and as I was dipping in and out of watching the tournament, he seemed to be the player that I saw the most of, and there did look to be very positive signs that he is picking up right from where he left off at the back end of last season. Before losing that final to Maguire, he had won all 10 of the matches he had played so far at the beginning of this campaign, which in the quickfire format of the Championship League is quite impressive. Even Maguire lost a couple of matches. His stats also show how well he is scoring too, which again follows on from the 31 centuries he made last season. He will of course have to face sterner tests as the season progresses if he wants to continue rising up the rankings, but it is definitely a promising start from him as well. Elsewhere, the event was also beneficial for the likes of Tom Ford, Ricky Walden, Xu Zi, Matt Selt, Pang Jung-soo and Ben Mertens, who all got through to the final stage of the event. And a particular focus I think should go to Ben Mertens for not only picking up the results he needed throughout the event at just the age of 20, but he also made 5 centuries across his group matches as well. So again, he can definitely take positives going forward this season. And then if we start looking at some of the bigger names who did enter the tournament this year, Shaun Murphy suffered 3 defeats in his opening group, which on paper you would have expected him to come through fairly comfortably. There were also the likes of Barry Hawkins, Jack Lisowski, Stuart Bingham, Chris Wakelin and Dave Gilbert, who despite all coming through their opening groups without much difficulty, all then succumbed at the second hurdle. And it was also a fairly mixed event for the ladies who entered this year. Rhiannon Evans finished bottom of her group, but she has already qualified for both the Wuhan Open and the British Open, following wins earlier this season, so it's certainly not all doom and gloom for the record ladies world champion, and actually getting 2 wins under her belt so early in the season is definitely a promising sign. Bai Yu Lu was unbeaten with 3 draws in her opening group, however that wasn't quite enough to get her through to the next stage, and it was actually On Yi who had the best tournament of the 3, coming through her opening group with 1 win and 2 draws, before just being ousted in the second phase. And yeah, ultimately it's not a tournament that will make or break anyone's seasons. However, there is certainly no harm in getting some early results to boost confidence for the rest of the season. Maguire has now booked his place in the Champion of Champions later this year, and also puts himself in the early running for places at the 1-year ranking tournaments at the end of the season. So his decision to get the queue out early in the summer could prove to be very beneficial for him. And up next is the Shanghai Masters, which starts next Monday, and that's where all the big guns will enter proceedings, so we'll get some early insight into who has been putting the hours in during the off-season and who might still just be a little bit rusty.